Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's happening, everybody? Man, well, it's another great day, right? What's happening, man? So check this out. Before we get my video started, if you would please join me in a moment of silence, followed by serenity. Pray for the addict who still suffers, and for those of us who are still bound down to some sort of struggle that keeps us from moving forward in our life of toxicity that we live in. So if you would please join me in a moment of silence. God, grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way, well, what's happening, man? Well, it's going pretty good, dude. Well, check this out. Today, I got something kind of intriguing, kind of cool, I think, you know what I mean? And we're going to talk a little bit about the sound of what a lot of people, different religions, different cultures think that that sound is God. Sound is creativity. Sound is where we all started from. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit about that in one of these websites that I got. I thought it was pretty intriguing, and this is from the Sage Sisters website, www.sagesisters.com, and I'm going to just read what it says here, man. I like it because they kind of break it down into different cultures, different religions, and what they think sound is, where their beliefs in sound comes from. And then we'll go on and elaborate a little bit about that, and then I'll tell you what I think my interpretation of that is, and then you can see where you fit in all that. You know what I mean? See what your beliefs are, and if you believe any of it, and if you live your life, in retrospect there of that, like, do you take that into consideration in the things that you do in your daily life? And I'll kind of share on how I do that in my own, and we'll see where it goes, right? So anyway, let me switch these things out real quick because I can't read nothing without these. Yes, sir. So check it out. We're going to go on here, and I'm going to read a few of these things, and we'll go on and see what's up. So anyway, it says, sound surrounds us every day, from the whispers of nature to the rhythm of the city of life. Across the world and through history, different cultures share a fascinating idea. And it says, the universe began with a sound. From the biblical, in the beginning was the word, to the ancient Egyptian god Paath, speaking the world into existence. Sound is seen as the starting point of creation. In this thing that we're going to read here, it says, we'll talk about how sound frequencies and vibrations are not just part of music and speech, but are the essence of the universe. It is mind-blowing how sound creates and affects everything in the universe. Okay, and it goes on to say, in the biblical tradition, in the West, one of the most iconic beginnings is found in the Judeo-Christian Bible, where it is stated, in the beginning was the Word. This phrase highlights the profound belief that the universe was created from a divine utterance, a sound. This concept underscores sound's inherent power and its connection to creation, suggesting that the universe itself unfolds from a spoken command. And it goes on to say that the Islamic tradition, in Islam, the concept of the word kalima holds significant power. The Quran states that when Allah intends to create something, He merely says it to be, and it becomes. Kun fayakun. This phrase shows the instant manifestation of God's will through His word, emphasizing the profound impact and creative force of divine utterance. It also goes on to say that in ancient Egyptian mythology, moving to the sands of ancient Egypt, we encounter Ptah, the god of craftsmen and architects. According to the Egyptian mythology, Ptah conceived the world in his heart and then brought it into being by speaking it aloud. The story captures the mystical essence of sound as a tool of creation, where divine thoughts vocalized into the physical universe demonstrate the transformative power of sound. In the Hindu tradition, the sacred syllable Om is the primordial sound from which the entire universe has sprung. This sound is not only chanted, but is believed to resonate through all existence, embodying the essence of the universe. In Aztec mythology, the god Quetzalcoatl used a conch shell to create life, showcasing sound's role in birthing new existence. Intuitive beliefs speak of the raven, which created the world and the waters by the beat of its wings, again emphasizing sound's integral role in creation. All these stories from different cultures and religions shown how sound is foundational, is a foundational element in creation, suggesting a deep intrinsic link between sound and the birth of worlds across different civilizations. Now, man, check that out. I just find that fascinating. You know what I mean? Because I know in my personal journey, when I hear all of those things, that every single part of different cultures from one side of the world to the next all believed that the word, the sound, saying things and bringing them into existence is how things are manifested, how things are created. You know what I mean? I don't believe for a second that that is wrong if cultures across worlds, they believe that. How is it that the Aztecs believed this and the Hindus way over here in the East believed it? How is that possible? You know what I mean? I believe that we all, through some sort of cosmic energetic sound, we were all touched by that sound. In turn, they're interpreted in different ways, but all touched through that sound. And everybody, every culture, every religion always says the same thing, that it was some sound that brought things into existence and that they believe in that one energy. You know what I mean? And then from there, it goes on and gets interpreted a little bit different here and there, right? But for the most part, it seems like we're all in agreement with that one thing. You know what I mean? That there's only one energy, that there is only one supreme, in a sense, that there's only one sound that we all abide by, that we all believe that if you want things to come into fruition in your life, it's through this sound. And what that sound is, to me, this is my interpretation, is that is the sound that is found in silence. You know what I mean? Believe it or not, there's sound in silence. And it's hard to explain, but the way I practice my meditation is sitting in silence and waiting for that silentness between one thought and the next. You know what I mean? And that silence from one thought to the next is where I find my answers to my prayers, where I find answers to the things I'm trying to bring into fruition into my life. When I'm looking for an answer, okay, where do I go next in my life? What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? It's in that meditative state of silence from one sound to the next is where I find clarity, where I find answers, where I find the communication of the universe, of that divine matrix energy to come into my heart and soul and into my brain to tell me what exactly I need to do. Now, this is just me. You know what I mean? This is just how I interpret that, and this is how I work that into my own life. You know what I mean? For many people, it's different, And this is just one of the things. And the things that I read are just one of the things. You know what I mean? It's just one of the things that different cultures, different religions, different people around the world practice that and what they believe in. But if you gotta pick and choose one thing, I believe it's sound. I believe that everybody is in agreement that sound is where the birth of creation is. You know what I mean? It is created. Everything in your existence, everything that's in your life, everything that you live by is dictated by a sound, because it's dictated by someone or someone's mental thought process. You know what I mean? Because somebody said it and brought it into existence, you believe it. No matter what it is. I don't care what it is that you're doing in your life, or where it is that you're stuck, or where it is that you're at, or where it is that you want to go. The way to get there and the way you got there is through the thought process of somebody. In other words, it's through somebody's words, through somebody's expression. And how they came about with that expression, I have no idea. You know what I mean? That's not something that I have an answer to. But if I had to come up with one, my interpretation of that would be that it was finding that connection between your heart, soul, your thought process, and the divine energies of the divine matrix. You know what I mean? That is just my thought process. That is where I believe things come into fruition. I believe that the things that go on in people's lives are through that. And if it's for the spiritual and good and energies, if it's for that, if it's going through that, because if it's something that's negative and dark, then your communication there is distorted. You know what I mean? There, if you find yourself in those situations where it's dark and negative and you can't get past this obstacle, if you got bound down to something, then that means your communication with that divine energy is being distorted through the toxicity of what you're allowing into your subconscious mind, what you're allowing and what you're allowing yourself to believe. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, it is up to you, it is up to me, it is up to one person to interpret and maneuver their life however they see fit. You know what I mean? And if you allow yourself to get engulfed into this negativity, into this dark process, and allow other people's thought processes that are negative have an effect on how you roadmap your life, well then there in turn, you're going to have to fix that somehow. If you want your life to move in a better and different and prosperous place. I believe, that's just my belief, you know what I mean? And I say this because I've lived through many adversities. I've lived through many, trials and tribulations. Man, I've gone through a whole lot of things since I was a little kid to the adulthood. I've gone through many things that a person shouldn't have gone through. You know what I mean? And some of the things that I've gone through was through my own doing, through my, own demise of allowing those dark and mental thoughts to maneuver how my life was going to go. And when I did that, it always ended up in a dark and negative place. You know what I mean? And so I'm a firm believer in, if you allow positive spiritual things and positive spiritual energies from the divine matrix to come into your life and maneuver your life in that way, that I don't think that you'll veer off to the dark and negative realm. You know what I mean? Because if you're entering nothing but positivity into your mental thought process, well then in turn there, that's going to be your actions. I don't believe that if you're throwing all the spiritual and positive things into your thought process, that you're going to manifest a negative action. I just don't believe that the math adds up there. You know what I mean? So, and then again, it's doing things on a repetitive basis, doing things on the daily, doing things all day long that are there, which is hard to do. You know what I mean? We live in such a toxic world that it's a hard thing to do, man. With your everyday life, you're surrounded with all this chaotic stuff that you're dealing with, from how your day is going to go, where you're going to get your food, how you're going to go to work, what it is you got to do for your kids. You got to pay your bills. I mean, we got a lot of things that we're dealing with, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people get stuck in that cycle. You know what I mean? And I live my life different than I used to. You know what I mean? Because I used to be in that cycle. I used to be in that hustle and bustle, and I used to live my life like that. And nothing ever, even though I was doing semi-good, so I thought, my life there was always something missing. You know what I mean? There was always something that I just couldn't quite, I know that I'm walking good here, but man, I could use a little kink out here and there. You know what I mean? It was always something like that. And it wasn't until I started incorporating, meditating, and being one with that energy, and finding answers there, and believing it, and practicing it on a daily basis, not just once a week, not just going to church on Sunday. You know what I mean? Not just, and it didn't have to be church. I just use that as an example. I mean, everybody's got different religions. Everybody's got different beliefs. But if you're just doing that religion and that belief and that faithful thing that you keep doing, if you're only doing it once a week, well, then what do you think your actions are going to be? They're not going to be that. I can guarantee you that. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen, man. So you are a product of your own environment, in a sense. You know what I mean? That's basically what it boils down to. If your patterns are dark, negative, and just not spiritual, well, then guess what? That's how your life is going to roll out. That is how your roads of your life map are going to be. They're going to be just like that, man. And I know this to be true because I lived it. I lived it, man. I lived it. I've been there and I've done that. And it wasn't until I started living my life through a positive and spiritual and energetic karmic view and way did my life start changing. You know what I mean? Things started coming into fruition in my life. Things started happening. You know what I mean? Things started that I felt that I needed some feeling in my heart and soul. It started wrapping itself around that and allowing me not to feel that anymore. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody can understand what I'm talking about, but that is to me, it's amazing. To me, it's something that I wish I would have found out a whole, long time ago. I would have saved myself a whole bunch of misery. That's for sure. I mean, I like I said, I've been in. I've had a lot of obstacles and a lot of chains that bound me down, and I was condemned through that dark and negative mental thought process for a long time, man. And I am just glad to say that door is gone, man. I don't have that weighing on my shoulders anymore. You know what I mean? I don't have those shackles on me. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. They're there. They're dormant. All those feelings and all that stuff that I've gone through with the anger issues, with the sadness, the depression, PTSD, alcoholism, drug addiction, childhood traumatic experiences, all of that stuff is still very much fresh in my life. It's dormant. But because of my mental thought process, I don't allow it to surface up where it needs to be. I take care of it. It's being remedied. I'm dealing with it. But I'm able to live a prosperous and just beautiful life. You know what I mean? I'm able to be happy, to want to help somebody, to want to help myself, to feel that I'm healing myself as I go through my life. You know what I mean? I just strongly believe that. And I feel that if I keep intact with that just frequency and energies of Mother Earth and that universe, the cosmic power, the energy of myself, my mind, my heart, my soul, and the energies of Mother Earth and the divine matrix of the universe, man, I all of that, when it's in line, man, I just feel like I can conquer the world. I feel like I can do and bring it to fruition many things. You know what I mean? And I think it just starts there. It's all part of that mental thought process. And just like those things that we read earlier, that sound, man, the sound, and that sound could be anything. That sound could be the music that you do. That sound could be the things that you bring, that you talk about. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, when you speak, you're speaking, you're throwing energy out. You know what I mean? But if you're speaking and throwing all this negative and hostile energy out, well, then guess what? You know, we live in this world where when you project those things out, this is what you're going to bring back to you. That's the karmic energy of the divine matrix. You know what I mean? The divine matrix only understands one language, and that's the language of sound. That's that sound that when you send it out there and it picks it up, it knows exactly what it's going to throw back at you. You know what I mean? So I know this to be true, man, because I've lived my life in you know, down in you know, where it was just nothing but drug addiction or nothing but negativity, nothing but just depression. I've been there, man, and everything that I thought and everything that I would say was all about that. And that's exactly what I got back into my life. And it wasn't until I started changing that mental thought process around to be spiritual and just positive and of good karmic energy of the divine matrix, man, it has changed my life tremendously. And I just love the way those things that we read, from the biblical thing to the mythical Egyptians, to the Hinduism, to the Buddhism, to the Aztecs, and to the inert beliefs. You know what I mean? All of those things are just to me amazing that they all thought about the same things. You know, they all knew that there was something with sound that was a connection between them, Mother Earth, and the universe. You know what I mean? And still today, it's the same thing. You know, 2,500, 3,000 years later, we're still believing in the same things. We're still working on the same things. We're still dealing with the same types of feelings. It's just a little bit different in culture, right? But you're still, I can guarantee you, back in those times, people were still dealing with sadness, anger, depression, and those sort of things, just like we are today. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So anyway, I thought that was cool. You know what I mean? I thought that I would today talk about that. And what do you guys think? You know what I mean? Do you guys believe that that sound, that music, that the words, do they have any effect in your life? And do you think, or do you believe that you are where you are today because of it? You know what I mean? I would like to say that, in my own opinion, I believe so. I believe that we are where we're at today in our lives because of the sound of our own words, the sound of somebody else's words. And like they say, sound of words is a double-edged sword. And you can chop down freaking, communities and cultures just with the sound of words. And you can also build, big communities and armies with the sound of words. You know what I mean? You can encourage so many people just with what you say, and discourage a lot of people with the things you say. But, the thing that I like to express on my channel is just to compare things and to motivate somebody, to help somebody, to let somebody know that, hey, you know what, you're not alone in the things that you do. If you're going through any types of trials or tribulations, if you feel that you're bound down to something, if you feel that you're the only one, because sometimes you feel like that, why me? And guarantee you, man, it's not only why you, because there's somebody else who is doing and going through the same thing that you're going through. But by listening to things like this, by tuning into an encouraging podcast and just kind of listening to people's stories of people who have gone through things and gone past them, You know what I mean? Is where I believe that it helps people, and that's the whole point of doing my videos, is to help somebody. You know what I mean? To encourage somebody, to let you know, hey, you know what? You got a friend. You're not alone. That if you know you've gone through things, I've gone through some things, and perhaps that the things that I talk about here and the things that I've gone through and the things that I've done to get past them, hopefully they help somebody. You know what I mean? And you know, be my guest to adopt any of the part of the things that I talk about in my own personal journey, because they may help you. You know what I mean? I know that those things help me, and not everything's gonna help somebody. You know what I mean? I understand that, because I've heard a lot of people's encouraging stories of some of the things that they do doesn't help me in my life. But I do pick and choose whatever I want. And that's the thing, is that that's the beauty of us being humans, that we have that free will to pick and choose whatever we allow into a subconscious mind. In turn, those are the actions that we get. So if you want positive, spiritual, and good karmic actions out of your life, well, then guess what you got to do? You got to pour all that in here. That's what you got to do. You got to pour all of that types of stuff into that subconscious mind of yours. And I guarantee you, man, if you do this on a repetitive basis, it happens, and it'll happen a whole lot sooner than you think. I can guarantee you that. And it's just great. It's just great because it allows you to just your mind just starts opening up, man, and your heart does too. You know what it means? And it's great to be like that. It's great to live that way. And but anyway, man, I just wanted to talk to you guys today about that, and just kind of throw something out there to you, throw you a little bone of some something that might help. You know what I mean? Chew on that for a minute, see what's up. But if you find it helpful, if you find it useful, let me know in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you'd like me to talk about anything else, man, just shoot me a comment and let me know. I always would like to share my opinion on whatever people have to say or whatever. But at any rate, if you please give me a thumbs up, shoot me a comment, hit that subscribe button, man, I'd greatly appreciate it. That's the whole point of doing the channel, is to share a message, and the only way we can do that is if you guys share it. So if you would hit that subscribe button, just know that when you do that, it doesn't cost you a thing, and you'll be helping out another veteran, another homeless person, another person dealing with PTSD, childhood traumatic experience, drug addiction, alcoholism, depression, suicidal thoughts, all of those types of things, my friends, because I've dealt with all of those things at one point in time in my life. And guess what? I know a way out. And it's great. So anyway, again, I appreciate you guys watching, man. I really do. Thank you. God bless. And until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.